And hello. Welcome to the Striving to Thriving show. And I'm your host, Barbara Ellison. And this show is all about redefining success and how you have done that in your life. For myself, I'm a transformational life trainer working with late career professionals to overcome stress, declining health, financial insecurity, just so that they can live a retirement that is thriving for them and not just surviving. So that's me. And I am so excited to introduce my guest co-host, Rachel Miller. So Rachel, tell us about you, and then we're going to have you introduce your guests. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me and these two amazing ladies that you're about to meet. So I am a brand specialist. I specialize in working with mental health professionals on cultivating their brand identity and really helping them embody who they are as a practitioner authentically. And two of the amazing practitioners I've gotten to work with are here. So Donna specializes in working with teens and has just launched a course, which is super exciting. And Britta has so many projects going on. Oh my goodness, she's got like a million things happening. But she specializes in working with self-injury recovery and just kind of helping clients through different transitions in life. And they can tell you more about that too.
Cool beans. All right. Well, also I'll start off my backstory, and it was like I thought, you always think you have a great life, that you're going to just live your life, and then my thing was I was going to dance at my great grandchildren's weddings, be happily married and the whole nine yards. Well, 13 years ago, my husband passed away, and I was like, after I woke up from my widow's fog, I can remember exactly where I was, what I was doing. And I realized in that moment that I had no idea of who I was outside of all the labels that I had put on myself, of being a daughter and a wife, and then being a mother, and then being a divorced failure, and then being a successful wife again, and then being a grandmother. And now I'm a widow. Who is Barbara in all of that? And it was absolutely the scariest moment of my life. What am I going to do? Well, I got a coach. Started in a coaching program, and from then on, it was like, gee, you know what? I'm not the only one that feels this way. And that's how now I'm working with the late career professionals. They have no idea of who they are outside of their job title or their job description. And now they're facing retirement. This is an absolute life-changing event, and they're not quite sure how they're going to handle it. And so it has just been absolutely a blessing to be able to help them to get, when that light bulb goes on, that they, oh, you mean I can do something different? Well, yeah, you can. So Rachel, so tell us about you. What was your kind of like backstory and defining moment?
Yeah, so I actually was born into a very musical family, and it was kind of understood from the very beginning. I had a guitar put in my hands when I was like 3 years old, and it was just like, okay, this is your identity, have fun. So I pursued it for a really long time and ended up, I wanted to study music, but in the program that I was going into, my dad was the teacher for that program, and they wouldn't let me take his class. So I was looking at the other options at the school, and graphic design was one of them. And I just thought, okay, that sounds creative and fun. I'll give it a shot, whatever. So I was performing professionally and going to school and learning about branding, and I just fell in love with it. But I think I was so stuck in the momentum of I am a musician and that is who I am and that's all I can be, that I freelanced on the side, and it was like where I got my fulfillment. But I got my degree in music. I ended up working in the music industry for years, and I was just getting so burnt out. And it went from something that I loved to something that, I don't know, was just kind of a task, which was a tough moment, just kind of realizing, I am in burnout, and this thing that I always dreamed of and fought for is something that might not be the right fit for me. And I would actually, after work, go and design logos for fun just to de-stress. And I had this moment where I realized I should be doing the thing that I'm gravitating toward, like for my own mental health and passion, as opposed to trying to shove myself into this box that I might not fit into. And I love music, and I'll always love music, and it will always be my language. But I just kind of took a chance on myself, left my corporate music gig, and started my company. And this was after freelancing for about 5 years. So I had some clients. And I just went all in on the things I was passionate about, on the mental health world. And that was, oh my God, over 4 years ago now. And here we are.
Cool. Yeah. I always think of it as making your heart sing. Do the thing that makes your heart sing. So let's introduce you to the rest of your guests and have them share what they do.
Cool. Who wants to go first? Oh, you're muted, Donna.
Yeah, I'll do it.
Hey.
Oh, I'm talking now?
Yeah, tell us your story.
Oh.
Yeah, this is a conversation. Tell us your story. Tell us
about okay, good. I thought you said Rachel was introducing. So yeah, I guess I never thought about this, Barbara, until I just had my birthday this weekend, and I realized I am at this age where
happy birthday.
Thank you. And yeah, I'm starting to feel that I'm in a different stage of my life. They're pretty profoundly. So I guess during the pandemic, I have always been a therapist to teenagers and young adults, and I adore them. And I've had, great success with my practice. But during the pandemic, I just became the most popular person that ever came along. I'm in my 60s. I wasn't expecting this, but suddenly every young person had anxiety in the whole wide world, right? So I just started doing more and more and more. And even my own therapist said, just because you have a lot of, just because you have more patience doesn't mean that you're a better therapist, right? And I couldn't put my finger on the feeling until I read something that said that burnout can include feeling robotic. That was the word that stopped me in my tracks, because I was just doing this over and over every single day for 2.5 years or whatever. And I was like, and then my friends would say, hey, how you doing? I'd be like, blah, blah, blah. I couldn't even speak at the end of the day. And so then I said, something's got to give. I got to find a way to make a living that isn't so, incredibly exhausting. So I was lucky enough to meet Rachel. And I swear to God, she got me in 2 seconds, which honestly, I don't know if I ever had that experience in my life where someone just got me, or maybe my first friend kind of gets me that way. But
oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. I need to turn everything on silent forever. Please continue. I'm so sorry.
It's all right. It happens.
So anyway, Rachel just put together, I guess when you're too close to it, you can't have any perspective. But she immediately put together all the crazy things I've done in my whole life and just said, oh, this is the story of it. And I was never able to do that for myself. I was always just grasping here, grasping there, whatever is going to work. My daughter told me this weekend I was chaotic. Thank you, 26-year-old daughter. But I am chaotic, and I do have a little bit of problems with organization. And Rachel she crushed it out of the park. And now the website stands as like a resume that I can call upon whenever I need to share a piece of information, so I don't have to work so hard. And hopefully I can also start to get some more like passive income out of it. Mm-hmm. So it really did something for my confidence that I couldn't have predicted. I really couldn't have predicted. Like, I have always been doing my thing my whole life, but never thought of myself as somehow accomplished.
Right.
So Donna, you're so accomplished. You're so accomplished. I think something, if I may just kind of speak to this, there are so many people who just kind of get started and do something and find something they're good at, and then get so swept up in the momentum that they kind of forget who they are in the process. And I think, Bart, that's something that you spoke to earlier with, the people who are toward the end of their career, and they just kind of define themselves with what they've fallen into. And an expression that I love to use with my clients is that it is so hard to read the label from inside the jar. Mm-hmm. When you're in it and you're so close to it and so close to all these things that you're doing and all these things that you want to do, that you can't really take a step back and make sense of it. You kind of just get lost in all of it, and to be able to take that step back and say, okay, I love what I'm doing, but I'm in total burnout. How can I do it differently? I think is a really brave thing to do. And
so often people don't realize they're in burnout until like Donna, I love that one word hits you.
Yeah.
And you're like, now that's me.
Uh-huh. Right. And then you could finally make some changes and have a plan instead of just, grinding all the time.
Right. Absolutely. Exactly. So cool, Donna. So Britta, how about for you?
Yeah, so I got into the mental health field after having my own experience. I have a chronic illness, and I found out my last actually couple of months of my bachelor's degree. So I took some time off in between my bachelor's and my master's degree. And once I was in a good place health-wise, that's when I went back and got my master's. And my intention was to use a lot of those experiences that I had with like isolation, having the chronic illness. It did require me to be quarantined for some time. And so I wanted to use that experience to help others that are also struggling with isolation, especially because of a chronic illness. I think life had a different path for me though when I got my master's, because I ended up in inpatient crisis settings, working with clients who were involuntarily hospitalized, who were in residential treatment for more serious mental health concerns. And I loved doing it. I think I had forgotten somewhere along the way that the whole reason I got into this field, though, was because I had a chronic illness and burnout hit so hard. But I wanted to do something that let me take like that passion that I had found working with those clients that were in those settings and still also take care of myself. And so that's why I ended up creating my private practice and specializing in, one of my biggest specialties is still helping clients who are coming out of involuntary hospitalization for their mental health. So I'm still using those life experiences and those professional experiences, and I still get to like practice self-care on my own terms, which is my favorite part of being in my own practice. So where Rachel came in was I think like what Donna, when you said the chaotic energy, I very much relate to that. I do have a lot of other projects that I'm working on. As far as like, I have projects where I'm trying to get more writing published and things along those lines. And I was just having a hard time really figuring out how to present myself online. And so when Rachel and I connected, it was just like the perfect opportunity to have somebody sitting across from me who seemed so interested in figuring out how to tell my story in a way that made me and potential clients feel comfortable as they were looking at my website.
Right. And also, I'd like to add that it's a metaphor for therapy itself, because it's the same principle that you can't be objective about your own stuff. You need to have some distance.
Definitely.
Yeah. That's like, I love being part of, sometimes just being part of the group, like even doing things like this, because it is just amazing to me that we all sort of say similar things, and yet we all have we all have a slightly different way of saying it. And one thing that resonates with you, like I love the fact of just, saying that it was one word, and I have experienced that. And somebody else can come along and go, oh, you know what? Well, my word was chaos, or my word was this. And that's what triggered me. And as long as they get triggered, it doesn't really matter how they did it. But it's the steps that came afterwards.
Right.
And I think that's where so often the fascinating story with me, one of the coaching programs that I got myself into was called The Ultimate Game of Life. And my coach said, gee, Barb, I'm from Montreal, Canada. And I happened to mention that I was going up to Montreal. And he said, well, the other coaching company that I do coaching with is having a 3-day event in Montreal. Why don't you check into it? I'm like, okay, fine. I'll go to the first session, and I'll, just really for my thing with him that I did it. Well, it turned out that the event was 10 minutes from my sister. Went to the first event and went, this is absolutely the best thing ever. Well, by the second day of it was like, this is what I want to do, because I heard other people were saying the same thing that I was. They had no idea of who they were. And it's like, identity it's wrapped up in everything. It's our happiness. It's in our relationships. It's in our job. It's in our retirement. Now, in my case, in retirement, who are you within what you do?
Right. And how do you showcase it? Because I certainly don't know how to do that, but.
Right.
Well, I think there's also something to speak to when it comes to that resistance that you feel when you're about to try something that ends up being that thing for you, right? Whether it's, really looking at your identity and figuring out, your brand, for example, or if it's going to an event like that, or joining a group, or joining a program, like there's this resistance that I think a lot of people utilize as a reason to hide from these daunting questions and to hide from that change and that self-discovery journey, because it's scary. And, we feel that resistance and we say, okay, I don't want to do this. Like, why would I go to that event? I don't know anybody. These are natural human responses to things. But when we challenge that and we do it anyway, when you let fear come along but not make any decisions, it's a very empowering thing. And it often leads to finding where you're supposed to be. I think that's something that all of us have in common, is that there was a moment of like, what am I doing? And, it led to the right place. It's just that those questions demanded to be asked to get there.
Right. And even that word branding was like, oh, I don't need that. I what does that even mean? But then it became such a creative process that like another part of my brain was able to light up for the first time in forever.
Right. Yeah. Like with me, when I first heard the word branding, it was like, well, I always thought of colors and logo.
Right.
That to me, that's all it was colors and logos.
Right.
Yeah, but so much more than that. Because how are you going to stand out if it's only colors and logos?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I define brand as anything that differentiates you. from an authentic perspective. Anything that makes you who you are, whether it's something visual, which is often where people start, but then going deeper into your voice, into your approach, into, you know, where you're putting your time and your passion, into how you uniquely inform that approach with your perspective. You know, these are all things that no one else can do like you. Even if someone tried to copy you tomorrow, you know, they wouldn't have your perspective, they wouldn't have your experience. That's all part of your brand too. Right. So it's really about embracing yourself on a visceral, kind of uncomfortable, vulnerable level. And that's why a lot of what I do is an intersection between actually designing things and coaching. Because there are so many of these identity questions that are really challenging to navigate. And what I see a lot of the time in my industry is it's, excuse me, sorry, I'm recovering from the bubonic plague. It's very transactional. It's very, you give me this, you know, brief, and then I'll give you an image, and that image will be yours, and whatever. And it's very like impersonal. It's a little cookie cutter. It's a little, you know, okay, you need a logo and you want it to have a smiley face on it. Here's a smiley face. There you go. And not asking the questions of like, what, you know, what does this mean to you? What does this feel like to you? How do we navigate that? You know, it's just, it runs deep. I could talk about that for a zillion years. And
yeah, because I didn't even know that through the process, I realized I have something to offer. I didn't even know that was going to be the outcome.
It's wild to me how you could be so incredibly successful, but not realize that you have something to offer.
Exactly.
And I think one of the things too is that we don't realize what a ripple effect that what we do, what we say, how we present ourselves, what our brand, you know, it's because it's other people's perception of us. How do they see us? And if they see us one way, is that how we want to be seen? And is that something that they want from us? So they're willing to hire us.
Right. And also therapists struggle with self-promotion anyway, and defining, you know, themselves as a valuable profession. And, you know, that's another piece.
Yeah.
That the whole profession has low self-esteem.
Yeah, I think it's also hard to figure out like how we can still be authentic when representing ourselves online, and then also still be in this, like, I hate to use the word like box that sometimes therapists get put into, but it's the only one that's coming to mind right now. I remember when Rachel had reached out to me, and one of the first times we met, and she was asking me some of the things just about like me and like what felt authentically me. I kind of caught myself holding back because I was like, well, I don't think that it would typically be okay for a person to have like a black and white logo, or for a person to have a logo like this. Like, it needs to look more like a mental health professional. And I was so happy that Rachel challenged me on that, because what the outcome was just like the perfect representation of me.
I feel the same exact way.
That's so cool. Well, I think, you know, a lot of the time, especially when we're trying to market ourselves to people, we worry more about what we think they want to see as opposed to who we authentically are. And we shove ourselves, I think a box is a perfect word for that. We shove ourselves in this box, right? And we contort ourselves into all these different shapes to fit in it. But it's a completely perceived thought. And especially something that I find, you know, in mental health, but also in general, is people gravitate toward things that they connect to. So the more authentically you can represent who you are, which more times than not is going to be something untraditional and something that you wouldn't really think of for yourself. But the more authentically you can really step into that and embrace it and advertise it and say, this is who I am. Like, I'm not apologizing and I'm not making myself smaller. The right people who need you and who have been looking for you without knowing they've been looking for you, they're going to find that and they're going to connect with it on a visceral level. And they're going to feel that compulsion to come and connect with you and explore that relationship, as opposed to trying to look like everyone else. There's not going to be that standout factor of, wow, this is someone that I really connect to. And I think, in my work, the most fun part is helping people realize this is who they are and they don't have to apologize for it. And there's room for them to show up authentically.
Right.
And it's better to, and you're more successful when you do.
Right. Because I think your tribe will hear your voice.
Absolutely.
And the things that people resonate with me are very different probably than Rachel or than Britta or than Donna. And it's just, and now, like, let's address a little bit the AI stuff. One time a friend of mine when AI was we were first really hearing about, everybody was hearing about the AI stuff. And a friend of mine, she said, oh, you know what, let's do this subject and let's do it in the style of Russell Brunson. And I went, why would you put out content in the style of Russell Brunson? Are you Russell Brunson? ClickFunnels, yes, he has had great success, but he did it because he's Russell Brunson of ClickFunnels. Are you? And it was like, I don't think she totally appreciated it, but it was like, you're not him. Put out stuff that you believe in your style, because it might take a little bit longer, but people are going to hear and see your style.
I think that it's a lot easier for people to find something that worked for someone else than to really ask the question to find out what works for them. And I think that there's a certain amount of imposter syndrome that comes into play there, because you don't think that you have the authority to decide what works. I think that's part of it. But I also think, like you said, what worked for someone else isn't necessarily going to work for you, even if you work in the same industry and do the same thing.
Right.
It's different.
Exactly. I mean, I went on for years saying things like, oh, therapists don't need a website. It's all word of mouth. Like, and then I made my own, and I didn't even know what it could do for me in terms of, and I don't even want more clients. I want to deliver a package of what I can offer for a lot of many things, which Rachel opened my eyes to. It's it's so freeing too.
Tell them about your course.
So the course is, Rachel suggested a course as opposed to a book, which would take me a long time to do. And so she helped me develop a 4-part online course called Attunement and Connection to Teens and Young Adults in Therapy. And it's for professionals and parents to understand the methods behind, having a successful practice with this population. So it's, and then I don't have to keep repeating myself all the time. It's exciting. And now I'm going to be on a couple of podcasts, and I can just, also share that, which is huge.
Yeah. And it's all about visibility.
Yeah. Exposure.
Exposure, letting people know what you do, why you do it, who you are, what you do, why you do it.
Right. And also, we're boxed into our zip codes for a million reasons, but now we don't have that constraint so much. So it's a breakthrough.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think we're all in very different corners of the US. I think.
I'm in the middle. I'm near Chicago. Rachel, where are you? You're East
New Jersey.
In New Jersey. Donna, where are you?
Near New York City.
Oh, okay. And Britta,
Donna and I are actually very much not far away from each other. Which is fun. I'm used to working with people who are across the planet. So it's so funny to be able to talk about towns and stuff. That's always interesting. Britta's in Orlando?
Yep.
Right? Yeah.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah. And and this is modern technology that we can all get together, and we're obviously different ages, and yet we've been through some of the same challenges, feeling the same way, noticing the same things, and now we're here to talk about it because you know what? If all of us are feeling it, chances are somebody listening right now could very possibly be feeling the same way, feeling that burn out, unfulfilled, just lack of purpose.
Right. And people to take you seriously for what your passion is instead of like spinning your wheels on a million other things. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. And just so much of people that they get caught up in are you ready to move on? Oh, yes, I'm ready to move on. Okay. How do I do that?
I think something else people get stuck on a lot too is their definition of success.
Yes.
I think it's often defined by what we're told we're supposed to be when, even back from when we were kids.
Yeah.
And I think a very liberating thing is when you can define it for yourself.
Right. And I think that's what happened with this show. One day, because a friend of mine, I was introduced to this concept of doing a show like this through a friend of mine, and she does ones on collaborating. And so we were all talking about how we use collaboration. And I said, yeah, I don't want to do a show on collaboration. It's just there's already one out there, and I didn't want to do it. And one day I was just sitting, it was like, well, okay, Laura, what do people need? Well, they need to know that they can go from striving to thriving, and that they can redefine success for themselves. And so then January, that was it. It was like, all right, let's see. What are people, will people want to come on as a co-host? Yeah, they do. Because they've had, almost everybody has had to redefine success for themselves at some point in their life. Chances are they've had to do it 3 or 4 or 5 or 12 times. Because we've all gotten caught up in doing stuff that, maybe this was not quite exactly what I should be doing. And they've had to just pivot.
So but you learn so much from the detours. I mean, that's what that's what the number one thing I say to my young adult clients is it's okay to take a risk to be happy and even fail or fall on your face. How else do you find out?
Right. Yeah. We don't learn when everything's going well because we're just coasting.
Right.
Yeah.
Chances are we're coasting in burnout.
Right.
But then until something shakes us up.
Right. Exactly. Those experiences are so valuable.
Yeah. So, wow. Yeah. Great conversation. And I think that I truly believe this is what people are talking about. And it's more and more and more people are talking about it. Because more and more people are coming to the shutdown, of course, led to a lot of it.
Yeah. They were locked in their rooms for 2 years, and then they became very fearful and anxious, as we all know. So it's almost like teaching people how to live again.
Yeah.
Especially young people, because you can't just hide in your room. It's not going to work.
Right.
Yeah.
So. And I think that isolation speaks a lot to Britta's mission story.
Yeah. Yeah, I do think that in a way I was more prepared for the shutdown just because of my own experiences a few years before that. I know a lot of people had a lot of the anxiety about the mask mandates, the quarantine aspect of it. And at the time I was working in inpatient and residential settings. So I didn't necessarily get to have like that quarantine experience with everybody else at that time, but I still was able to draw on that experience as like I get where you're coming from. This is a very isolating thing to go through. And everybody right now is going through it, which makes it even scarier.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was so repetitive. I mean, you could just, that there was, after a while, there was nothing new to say about it. So, it's nice to have that creative spark back in our lives again.
Definitely.
Yeah. because I think we so often don't realize, or we don't realize that we are able to rethink something. Okay, see, and maybe go like 12 years ago. Oh, I was doing that. Ooh, do I still want to be doing that?
Mm-hmm.
Or do I want to go back to that?
Mm-hmm.
And just it depends on your age, and just do you want to step into a different kind of business? Those are all questions that it all sparked.
Right, and I was like, right, like I was so caught up with trying to make money, like I couldn't really think about anything else, like outside the box.
Right, because you have bills to pay. We all have bills to pay, but we also get to be happy. That's what with me. And I think for me, one of the catalysts was a friend of mine looked at me. She said, "Well, Barb, what do you want?" And I said, "You know what, Noelle? I just want people to be happy." She said, "Well, then that's your thing. Find the way to help people to be happy. If they can find purpose or passion or get relief from the voices in their head that are telling them that they're not good enough, that they're not worthy, that who are you to think that you can have a branding business? Who are you to think that you can get out of music? Who are you to think that you can help teenagers? Who are you to think that you can help people with isolation?" And those all go through our heads, whether we want to admit it or not. All of those things. And for me, it was like, well, you're too old. I mean,
yeah, I never dreamed that I would have like some kind of success at this age of my life. Never.
Yeah. So, yeah, just an amazing conversation. I'm so glad you're here, all here. This has been great. So, yeah. So, Rachel, take it away. Get some final words and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I really appreciate everybody being willing to share their story. And I think there's a lot of power in our stories and in really, harnessing who we are and fearlessly showing it to the world. So congratulations to you guys for doing that. And, Donna and Britta, thank you for letting me be a part of that for you.
Thank you for giving me my confidence back, Rachel.
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. And we don't realize how much confidence comes into play until we, because we don't see it until all of a sudden we do it. All of a sudden we do see it. It's like, oh yeah, that's what I've been needing. You just don't realize it until all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm part of a team, even if it's a team of one. That you're that you are the entire team. But then when you find somebody else that says, "Oh, well, yeah, I'll help you," and then you become a bigger team. And I think that's the beauty of this, is that and now as you get to know people that are also doing the same things. So absolutely. So how about for you, Britta?
For which part?
Oh, just final words, or just what's your takeaway, or what have you enjoyed about being on here and those kinds of things? Would love to just Yeah,
I think honestly, even just to kind of echo like Donna's things, like the biggest takeaway for me has just been how much confidence and how much almost like easier it's just been to navigate the private practice part, even since getting more of like a streamlined website up and running, and like getting to give myself that permission slip to be more authentically myself online has just been an amazing experience.
Cool. All right. Okay, Donna, how about for you?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm putting myself out there and saying I have this expertise as like a therapist to teens and young adults, for decades I'm doing this, and like now I have like there's some basis for it now. There's like a depth and a richness to it. Like I can't be blah about the thing I'm passionate about at the same time. Now I'm projecting some enthusiasm again. So that's, I mean, it's I feel it's opening up like a different channel of my being.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To just say, oh, I worked so hard for all this stuff, and instead of it being like a big fat jumble of chaos, it's actually fits. Rachel just, I don't know how she did it.
It's all just about showing up as you, and I think something that has helped me a lot too is giving myself permission to show up authentically within my own business, because I think when, like, tattoos out, whatever, this is who I am. I've had a lot of people be like, oh, well, I'm not going to work with someone with tattoos. I'm like, cool, I'm not for you. Bye. But I think there is a lot of power in showing up as yourself, because it also invites others to do the same in a really safe space, in a safe way. And I think with what you guys do, when you invite people to show up as themselves to therapy, that's a life-saving measure. So the fact that you're embracing your authenticity more and then encouraging others to do the same is huge.
Right, but nobody does it for us. We know how to do it for everybody else. But you were like the first person who came along and said, like, well, what is this thing that you do, and how do you do it? Like, no one ever asked me before.
Yeah, it was such a refreshing experience. It's funny that you even brought up the tattoos part, because I know when I graduated, it was feedback I got a lot about, like, always have a sweater with you in case clients don't want to see your tattoos, and like be prepared to possibly have to like hide piercings and things like that. And so when you reached out to me and I got the chance to see like that you had your tattoo showing, it was one of the main reasons that I was like, this is somebody that I'm going to feel comfortable working with, because I'm going to get the chance to have somebody be authentic while I get to be authentic at the same time.
Right.
That's really cool.
That's one of my things. Like I was brought up in a very kind of conservative family. Plus, I'm obviously a lot older than you guys. And it was like, professional. Well, I was always told that professional women are, like they don't play up. They're not flamboyant. They don't wear red glasses and have sparkles on their nail polish. They are more conservative. They are quiet, and they're very professional. Well, professional men like kind of like beiges and and I'm like with maybe a splash of color.
I mean, my question there would be, who decided that?
Thank you. That's fine. But we have to get to that point. Who decided that? Because I know now that I have so many people say, well, Barb, I love your red glasses. And they like the openness that, okay, because then if I'm being authentically me, Rachel, you just said, all of us have said it. If we're being authentically ourselves, that gives everybody else permission to be authentically themselves with us.
And I think the things about us that are most, authentic, sincere, things that we think we should be hiding away are, like Britta said, like, that's the reason that a lot of people will choose to work with or connect with you is, the exact parts of yourself that you think you're supposed to hide. Those are like huge attractors to the right people. But it's about finding the right people, which is where that visibility conversation comes back. It's, Yeah,
right. I know I was on a call this morning and we were talking about so often we want things for other people that they don't want for themselves. Find the people that want what you have to offer.
Yeah.
And then everything else will fall into place. But we have to put it out there what we offer and how we offer it. So, ladies, this was absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I think this will be just a great, people need to hear that there is something out there for them that they can express themselves in an authentic way.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that this is a conversation that more and more people are realizing is such an important conversation. Don't try, don't do you. Do you. Don't try to do somebody else. Do you. And everything else will fall into place when that happens, because then you can go from striving to thriving, and you can redefine success in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Do that thing that makes your heart sing, that gives you meaning and purpose and passion. And when you have that, everybody else will come along with you, the ones that you're supposed to be with.
Mm-hmm.
One of my biggest things is so often we have that if I do this, I'll have this, and once I have that, I will be this.
Mm.
I work with people now to put the be
Oh.
first.
I
To
don't know what
put
that is, but
to put the be first. Be you. Be your
Mm.
you. And then once you are being who you're supposed to be, then you'll do what you're supposed to be doing. And then once you start doing what you're supposed to be doing, then you will have everything that you could possibly want. And
Mm.
ladies, you are testament to how true that statement is.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
This is awesome. So thanks everybody for listening. And if you would like to come on the show as a guest host and bring on a panelist of your people that you would like to have a conversation about what it means for you to be striving, to go from striving to thriving, and how you've redefined success in your life, reach out to me. Here, let me put my and you can just here's my LinkedIn profile. Reach out to me. Would love to hear from you. And so then let's all be happy together. For myself, I'm on a mission to make happiness the norm rather than the exception. And we can do all of it, and we can do it together. So
Great.
thank everybody for listening. Bye, everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.